going to do that recording now so that you can later reference it on our YouTube channel, and I'll share that link in the chat. But welcoming our presenters today, just a reminder, make sure you stay on mute, please. And then if you have any questions, feel free to utilize the chat, and you can also utilize the raise your hand function. We will also have at the end of the formal part of the presentation a Q&A where you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask those questions. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I will kick it off to Joanne.
Great. Thank you, Lori, so much. Lori's terrific and got a lot of wonderful things happening for family and students this summer in terms of helping you join the Santa Clara University and the business school. So congratulations, here we are. We are so excited to welcome, Denise is doing her happy hands. So excited to welcome all of you and your student to Santa Clara University and the Leavey School of Business. My name is Joanne Scheibels. I work as the Senior Assistant Dean in the Undergraduate Business Programs Office. Some of you may have watched or hopefully did have a chance to watch a recording that we put together and that I facilitated on behalf of the office to help you continue to get acclimated to the university. What we share is the Undergraduate Business Programs Office is a great office for both you and your student to know as they're joining us here at Santa Clara. It helps them to understand that our office is the one-stop location for all undergraduate business students who have questions, need some advising, thoughts, issues, and so we can help direct them if we're not able to answer those questions. And we'll share that information with them and you on an ongoing basis. So again, welcome. I've been here for over 20 years, and one of my favorite times of the year is as we're welcoming new students. So our goals today, I have a terrific group of colleagues who they'll introduce themselves in just a moment, but our goal today is to spend time with all of you who are either family members or support individuals for a student joining us this fall. And very specifically, our presentation will be on the advising components, how we're preparing students for their registration timeframe. For those of you who might be on the call, we are in the midst of doing registration. Some students have registered already this week, and some students will be registering through next week. If your student has already registered, some of this may be a repeat of information and or not necessary. So if it's for you, I'm sharing this so you can step off if that doesn't work for you. We're going to spend a little bit of time going over a PowerPoint presentation. We'll have some questions for our panelists, and then we will open it up for questions and answers. We will also open up the chat for Q&A, and so you can either come off and unmute yourself to ask questions or ask questions through the chat function as well. So with that, let me again welcome you, and let me ask Andre, I think, to introduce himself. So we have a number of panelists, they will share who they are.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Andre Gaviola. I am a rising second-year student here in the Leavey School of Business at SCU. I'm also from San Jose, California, so a local student, like I'm sure some of you are today. And I am an accounting and information systems major in the business school, and then I also have a sustainability minor. And then some of my involvements around Santa Clara include the Delta Sigma Pi business fraternity. I'm part of Barkada of SCU, which is our Filipino club on campus. And then this summer, I'm also participating as an orientation leader and a summer peer advisor for business students. So I'm excited to be here along with the other panelists today to help welcome our incoming students as they transition to college life.
Hello, everyone. My name is Grace Gonzalez. I am a rising junior, and I'm a marketing major from San Diego, California. And this summer, I'm also a summer peer advisor, so I've been working with some of your students prior to registration. Some of my involvements on campus, last year, I was a residence hall desk assistant at Dunn Residence Hall, and I was also a first-year peer advisor. And then next year, I'm going to be a sophomore peer advisor, and then I'm studying abroad in the fall in Portugal. And a huge reason why I joined the peer advising team is because of how big of an impact my first year peer advisor had on my time at Santa Clara. And I hope to bring that to your incoming students. And we're very excited to have you all here today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Dana, and I am a faculty member here at Santa Clara. I teach business law, and I'm beginning my 7th year here at Santa Clara. Been teaching for about 10 years. And before that, I was a practicing lawyer in Arizona. I also hold a few different advising roles. So one of those would be that I advise pre-law students, and I also advise students who are finance majors, and I am also an advisor for students who are still deciding what they want to major. Also somewhat unique is that I, in addition to being a faculty member, I'm also a student here. So I decided a few years ago to enroll in the MBA program, and I've been taking classes slowly. And so, you know, on one night I might be grading your exams, grading the students' assignments, and then the next night I'll be completing my own exams or studying for my own exams and completing my own assignments. So welcome to this webinar. Happy to chat with you today.
Hello, I'm Elise Mason. I also work in the undergraduate business programs office as the director of student engagement and outreach. And this summer I've had fun sharing newsletters with your students. And so hopefully they're reading them and keeping up to date as to what's going on with the business school. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Denise Ho. I'm the Senior Director of Academic Advising for the undergrad business students. So my role is to provide leadership and oversight over academic advising and support services. So my role is to guide students in their next 4 years at SCU. I oversee a team of dedicated peer advisors like Andre and Grace. It's one of my favorite part of my jobs. And also the undeclared faculty advisors, which Mike Dana was talking about. Mike, that doesn't mean that you're not also my favorite part of my job also. Just wanted to put that on there as I was saying that. Who provide comprehensive support to help students to navigate academic problems, make informed decisions, and achieve their educational goals. So I work a lot with faculty, staff, and other campus partners, such as the Drama Advising and Learning Resource Center. So in short, really, I just really love working with people and coaching them during their 4 years at SCU. So let's get started. And Elise, will you please share the slide? I mean the slideshow. There we go. So welcome to the Leavey School of Business. I am so excited. I get to kick off this presentation. So students are preparing to register for their first set of classes for fall quarter, which is a really exciting time for me. So there's 2 parts to it. So this is the preparation part that your students should be doing. They received an invitation to an online Canvas Communo course. This is their one-stop for everything that they need to know to prepare for their registration. And it's accessed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for them to log on at any time. Anything and everything they need to know about what to register for, about classes, what a fall quarter looks like is all on there. If they need to take a placement exam, they should probably be doing that. So the placement exam could be the Calculus Ready exam, or it's also called ALEX. I know it's kind of confusing, but it's 2 things. So our business students are required to take calculus, which Joanne will go into in a few moments, or if they need to fulfill their second language requirement, which Joanne will also go over. So prior to registering for classes, the business school is offering 2 great resources. This is completely optional for students, but we highly recommend it. There's one workshop that I offer on Tuesday. It's next Tuesday, July 18th at 2 p.m. It's basically the Communal course live, where I go through like a 25-minute presentation, and the rest of the time I'm just answering Q&A. It's been really fun. I've met with over 75 students during these workshops, and they ask really great questions. So if that's an option that your student would want to they can also come do that. The second one is if they can't make that time, we have wonderful summer peer advisors like Grace and Andre that you can go ahead and sign up for a one-on-one appointment. Maybe they want more individualized advising or someone to walk them through how to use Workday, which is our system that they use to register for classes. Both of these optional registration workshops or signups can be found on their students' Camino page. It's their first page that they hit, which is their homepage. They just need to scroll down a little bit and it'll share the links. If they have any questions at any time or can't find this information, they can email lsb-peeradvisor@su.edu. Next slide. Great. So they've done all this preparation. They did the Camino class. Maybe they met with a peer advisor. So students selected their registration appointment day and time when they were accepted into Santa Clara. If they can't find that registration email in their su.edu email, they can email the Drop-In Center and they can go ahead and send a confirmation or resend a confirmation. So on the day of registration, excuse me, they're going to log into Workday about 10 minutes before they register. We just want to make sure that they have a strong Wi-Fi connection and they're ready to go. They also, the day before they register, one of the university advisors from the Drop-In Center will send them a Zoom link. This Zoom link here is just to make sure that if they have any issues when they're registering or have questions and unsure if they're still unsure about what classes today, they can log on to the Zoom at any time. And once that time hits, so like let's say your student's registering at 1 o'clock, there's a little button that says register. They're going to click it. If they have any issues, they can log on to the Zoom with their advisor. If they're unsure, if they did register for classes and they just want the advisor to check it before the registration period ends, they can do that too. I really highly recommend students use a laptop. I've seen students who are doing it on like a tablet and a phone, and it's just way harder to navigate Workday and registering for classes and searching when you're on either your phone or on a tablet. And make sure you have strong Wi-Fi connection is the other thing. We want to make sure that we're able to talk to you on Zoom if you need help, and also be able to have a strong connection to make sure that you can register for classes. My second recommendation is always have backup courses, because there are other students who are also registering at the same time. And so I just want to make sure that your student is prepared for the actual day. Another question I'm getting a lot is, when will Workday be updated to show me what courses are being offered? So it will be 24 hours before their registration. So let's say if someone is registering tomorrow at Friday, our Workday system will be updated this afternoon with all our course offerings. Next slide, Elise. So I'm going to turn it over to Joanne, and she's going to do an overview of the curriculum and talk a little bit about math and second language.
Great, thanks, Denise. And for you and your students, Denise Ho is somebody that you definitely, as well as your peer advisors, want to connect with. And as she sends emails, the students will get very familiar with her name as well. So what does our curriculum look like, or what does your business students' curriculum look like? Well, there are three major parts to the curriculum. On the left-hand side of this PowerPoint, you can see where it says university. This means the university core classes. So these are all classes that every student at an undergraduate level need to take at the university. So you're going to hear your student talk about something called CTW, the critical thinking and writing class, or perhaps a religion class, or perhaps their diversity class. All students, be it business, arts and science, or engineering, do a number of classes through their university core. On the right side, you see business school. Those students who are joining us in the fall as business students, in addition to the university core, have a business school core of classes, which is a number of foundational classes that provide a good, strong underpinning of understanding of the world of business, and also help students work through a number of areas and disciplines in the world of business so that they then can decide their major. So our Business 70 class, our Contemporary Business Issues class that all business students will be in their first year in the fall quarter, or it could be our accounting courses. We have 3 econ classes, Professor Dana's business law class, and then a number of upper division classes that cover finance, marketing, management, etc. So students can take those. And then once a student declares their major, which we require students to declare their major at the end of their sophomore year, they can stay undecided up until that time. And in often cases, we encourage them to do that. So they explore a number of areas of disciplines. They'll decide their major and take a number of major related classes. And then there's chances for students to take a second major outside of the business school in the College of Arts and Science, or a minor perhaps either within the business school or external to the business school. There's plenty of room in the curriculum to do that. And then certainly encourage students to take elective classes that they're just interested in taking, because it's an exciting time to do that. And there's so many interesting courses to look at across the university while they're here. All set, Elise. Thank you. One of the questions that comes up a lot for both the peer advisors and for all of our advisors and during registration is the math requirements. So I'm going to take a minute to talk this through for everyone to hopefully anticipate a number of questions that either you or your student are having. All business students are required to take 2 calculus classes within the Leavey School of Business. I can either take Math 30 and 31, which is calculus for business, Math 11 and 12, which is calculus and analytic geometry. Both classes really follow the same foundational mathematical concepts. Math 30 and 31 really use more business-based concepts as examples as they're going through those classes, whereas Math 11 and 12 is more social science focused. One of the things we share with families and students is generally students will take Math 30 and 31 as business students. However, Math 11 and 12 is great and equally as good. And in particular, if you have a student who is very interested in math, thinks they might want to take a major in math as well, or do a minor in math, or just simply likes it, then we would encourage you to do Math 11 and 12, because then that leads to 13 and 14. So as it says, either of these areas will satisfy the track for math. And then based on how the student has done, which moves to our next slide, they may need to take a pre-calculus class, which many students do across the university, and helps them set themselves up for success. So there's a great QR code for additional information on the math requirement, and the email for the CRE director for additional questions that you have or we may not be able to answer. At least the next slide. Oftentimes AP credits come up, so you can see our chart to help students and families understand. If you have a student who has taken some calculus, AP calculus classes in high school, you can see here on the chart, and based on what class they've taken, the score they've received, what course they will get credit for at Santa Clara. So I'll use 2 examples. For calculus AB, if a student scores a 4 or 5, they are going to earn credit for Math 11, and then that student can enroll in Math 12. So essentially they've checked the box for one of their math classes and can move right to the second math class. If a student has taken calculus BC, the last on the chart, and received a 4 or 5, they're going to earn credit for both Math 11 and 12. So they're going to check the box for both those classes, and essentially their calculus requirements are complete. But if they'd like to go on to do further math, we can certainly help advise them around that. And then talking about our calculus readiness exam, as Denise shared, otherwise also known as ALEX. So all students were needed to take the calculus readiness exam. If you did AP, you probably don't need to do that. But so here are the scores. If a student scored 0 to 75, then the student will need to register for Math 9, and Math 9L, which is a lab. And this is very important, as our students will tell you, to enroll in the class that you need to enroll in based on your CRE score is very important. 10 weeks goes very quickly, and we want to make sure we get students in the right class and working towards being successful around their math requirements. If a student scored 76 to 100, then they're registering for either Math 11 or 30, and no lab is required. Also, second language. Here's what we talk about with second language. All students at the university have a second language requirement. They can be a bit different for each of the academic areas. In other words, all the business students have a second language requirement, arts and science do. So those might be a little bit different in terms of the requirements. What's important is that we refer students and questions and families, questions that they have, to the Modern Language website, which we have here with the QR code, to answer the many questions around second language that you might have. It's best for you to go to the experts to answer those questions for your students, so you get the direct response needed. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Denise, that's going to talk about some typical fall quarter classes.
So this is the number one question I get from students and parents is, what should my student be taking? So we recommend that they take 4 classes, so 16 units total. So for each four unit classes. The first class is that they should already be pre-enrolled. The majority of the students are going to be pre-enrolled in a critical thinking writing class. And then there's a small percentage that'll be enrolled in a religion, theology, cultures, or RTC1, or a cultures and ideas class. The second class that we've told business students that they're all required to take their fall quarter is Business 70. So it's already 2 classes that they know that they have to take fall quarter. And the third and fourth class is really just a mixture of SU or business core classes. So we have it listed in here are some options, such as starting their econ series like Econ 1, maybe taking a math class. We also have Almost 15, which is a 2-unit class called Intro to Spreadsheets. And then there's just so many different university core offerings: arts, diversity, natural sciences, cultures and ideas 1. It is really up to the students. So we really want them to go online and look at the different class offerings and see which one they're interested in. Next slide.
So that is our PowerPoint presentation. And I know many of you are starting to put questions in the chat. We're going to hold your questions for a few minutes while we go to our terrific panelists, who are going to talk about some really helpful hints from a student's perspective and also from a faculty member's perspective of what it takes to be a successful college student, and in particular here at Santa Clara and in the business school. So I'm going to start with the students and ask them to share a little bit about what was particularly helpful or helpful hints that they would give to all of you as family members and to new students about what helped them with their transition to be successful once they came to Santa Clara. Grace, I think we'll start with you and then go to Andre.
Okay, sounds great. So I would probably say that the transition from high school to college, the main thing that I found was that I had a lot more free time. I was only taking 4 classes my first quarter compared to high school. You're taking like 7 classes a day that are all back to back. So with that amount of free time, I think it's super important that you keep a planner and you plan out all your time. So you write down when you're going to have some free time to yourself, when you're going to hang out with friends, when you're going to study. And keeping a planner is really what helped me through my first year and helped me succeed with all my classes and just the transition from high school to Santa Clara.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a great answer. I would definitely second what Grace said about time management being important. Another thing that I would say helped me personally is asking professors for help. I know it can be very intimidating as a first year student. You're not really sure about how to approach a professor, but trust me, they're all very welcoming, very helpful, obviously very knowledgeable about their subjects. And they're a great resource if you're not feeling sure about a class or if you need any support. They all have office hours. There are also academic advisors like peer advisors. We have the Drummond Center, which is a great resource for specific help in some subjects. So SCU has really prepared you with plenty of resources if you're ever feeling uneasy about a class and need some support.
Great, wonderful. Thank you. Terrific suggestions, right? Those planners, or how to use those planners or calendar functions on your computer, right? In terms of what's coming up, I think will be helpful. Professor Dana, we're going to turn to you next, who has been with us for a bit and works with our students in all different capacities. So perhaps you could share some helpful hints for everyone about, from a faculty member's perspective, what do you see students doing to be successful in the classroom?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a theme here. Grace and Andre both gave some great tips. My main tip also is related to the amount of freedom that students have. When students come to college, they're going to experience a new level of freedom they haven't had before. There will be times where the friends will say, hey, we're going to this social event or this activity, and yet there's an exam the next day, and there's nobody there hovering over you saying, okay, you need to study for your exam. So you need to really develop that self-motivation. And more specifically in the classroom, when you're in high school, you'll have, generally speaking, you'll have classes where maybe there's an assignment or more assignments due within a single week, every single week. Whereas in college, there will be times where you might go several weeks in a class and there's nothing that you have to submit, nothing that's due. But you don't want that to lull you into feeling like you don't need to do anything, that you have a break. You need to stay on top of the material, because then several weeks will go by. Now you're taking an exam, and if you haven't studied, well, there's a lot of information there that you need to keeping up with. And then also related to what Andre said, from the perspective of a professor, I really appreciate when students contact me because they need help, because they want to discuss a topic. And there's that cliche saying that, no question is a dumb question. Well, that's also true when it comes to contacting professors. You can contact me, and I know most of my colleagues, just about any time for anything related to the class, and we're more than happy to talk with you about your progress.
Wonderful. Thank you, Professor Dana. We'll come back to that in just a few minutes in terms of those helpful hints. I'm curious, Grace and Andre, maybe you could talk a little bit about, Andre, maybe starting with you. So 10 weeks goes fast, right? So maybe talk a little bit about a couple things that you did outside of a planner and keeping yourself organized. What was it like adjusting to the quarter system and how that went for you?
Yeah, sure. I would say it's definitely a transition. I personally came from a high school that had a semester system, and I'm sure most high school students do that as well. And the quarter system definitely does go faster. I would say that outside of staying organized and reaching out when I needed help, it was also helpful to have a good group of friends to come to when you need support. So I think we've talked a lot about academics and how you can find support and stay organized in your academic life, but I feel like your social life is just as important. And for me personally, I went out and joined clubs that I found aligned with my interests and aligned with my potential future aspirations. And I think that really helped keep me grounded, as well as find other peers who kind of have the same focus and the same mindset that I want to do.
That's very helpful. Grace, do you want to add anything differently on that or anything else on the quarter system? I think that's an important piece.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything that Andre said. I think that the social aspect is also super important, because the 10 weeks does go by really quickly, and you can tend to get overwhelmed during these midterm seasons where you have a ton of tests or assignments building up. One example I like to point to is in Business 70, all students will do a project called Mike's Bikes. And there's a group component to this project, and getting to meet other first year students who are also in the business school and interested in a lot of the same things that you are really did keep me motivated to continue to work on my Mike's Bikes project, and just having a group that was super motivating. And the more you go through college, the more your students will find themselves in classes with similar people, and you'll get to know these people and bond with them and start to form study groups, which is also super motivating with keeping you on top of your work for the 10-week short quarters.
That's great. Thank you. Both terrific thoughts. Professor Dana, can you talk a little bit about your role also as an undeclared advisor? How do students find you if they're interested in talking with you about academics?
So at some point in their progress here at Santa Clara, students are required to declare their major. And if you haven't done that yet, there are advisors here on campus and in the business school who can help students with that process, who can help students decide which major to take. And I'm trying, when you ask how do they find us, I believe they're sent notifications. So they're, sometimes I've seen signs on campus within the business school. There's big, these sort of billboard things, and they'll show the advisors, so they'll see us as they're walking around campus. They'll also get emails, and I believe you can also do a search within the website or even on Google, and sometimes that'll pull up how to contact us. And then to schedule an appointment, the students will be given a link where they can log in and make an appointment. And there are, I don't know how many advisors we have over the next year, but you can choose an advisor to meet with, and then you schedule an appointment, and then we will meet with you either in person or on Zoom, depending on the time, and discuss your needs and your questions about the different majors.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's perfect. So we've got lots of people with lots of different backgrounds and disciplines to help, as well as our peer advisors who work directly with students. So I'm going to ask a couple more questions and then move it over to questions and answers from all of you. I know Denise has been on the chat, and probably others are looking at that, trying to answer questions as well. One question that has often come up, and Andre, I'm going to pass this to you, is what kind of computer should I bring or have to be successful? So maybe we could spend a moment on that. And then Grace, the question that's going to come to you is, if I'm a student in the business school, can I do a minor or a major outside of the business school in addition to my major? And is that possible to do in 4 years? Andre, how about computers?
Yeah, this is a great question. And I actually was a little confused on this as well coming into college. Personally, I own a MacBook, so I use my MacBook pretty much for everything. All of my school related files and all the websites that I need to access are accessible through the MacBook. Super helpful for me, and I know a lot of other students carry MacBooks as well. A Surface Pro would do just fine as well. A lot of kids also have Chromebooks. So really any form of a portable laptop that you can take to all of your classes will suffice for work in the business school. Some students also like to add on an iPad as well, or some sort of tablet that they can write on if they prefer the feeling of writing. That's helpful too, but I would definitely prioritize having some sort of a laptop to work on first.
And if that's not the case, or it's not available to you, then you just come and we'll work with students to help support them with what's available on campus as best we can. Thank you, Andre. Grace, in terms of, can I do a major outside of the business school or minors?
You absolutely can. And oftentimes we do see a lot of students who will major or a minor outside of the business school. I think Andre has a minor outside the business school with sustainability. I have a ton of friends who have minors outside of the business school. It could be bio, psychology, sustainability. You could do economics as well. And then when it comes to double majoring, that's absolutely possible with the quarter system and how fast it moves, and how many classes you're taking. It's very easy to double major. I had a friend who just graduated with a business degree and also a dance degree. So that really, the quarter system allows you to double major and minor and really get to study everything that you want. So
wonderful. Thank you. Denise, I'm going to come to you in just a moment. But as I do that, Denise, my question for you, is there any particular question that's coming up a lot or anything that in particular Professor Dana did not cover that we'd like to make sure from a faculty's perspective we hear? Otherwise, the questions will be there. Let me also say to everyone on the call, we're going to move to a couple more pieces of information covered by Denise that might be coming up a lot for clarification purposes and or panelists, and then we're going to move to our Q&A. So for those of you who may have gotten everything they need at this point in time and you're off to your other important things that are going on your Thursday afternoon, please feel free to do that. We understand that time is valuable and people are busy. For the rest of you, please hang on. We're going to move to Q&A and make sure that we answer as many things as we can for you. We'll do that for a period of time and then stop and then allow people to get off the call. And then for those of you who have any particular individual questions at the end, a number of us will stay to see if we can try to answer those. So with that, Denise, let me turn it over to you, who I know has been looking at the chat, or Lori has as well. Any things that's coming up in particular or other pieces?
One, parents, you're asking really great questions. So I really appreciate that. And I think I got everybody. If you didn't, I apologize. Lori's giving me a thumbs up, so that means I'm doing great. But no, there's not anything like in common. I think a lot of questions about math, but Joanne, I think you covered that. And just questions for people who have a student who already registered, but I'm going to wait till the end. I want to make sure I get to the parents or whoever has a student here that's going to be registering and answering those questions.
Great. Maybe one question that came up in our pre-enrollment, Denise, was, what if my student hasn't taken the CRE or taken their language placement test? So should I still show up for registration? What do I do in that case?
Yeah, so you can still show up for registration. If you haven't taken the CRE, you can take it right now. It's on the students' My SCU portal. It's the CRE Alex tab, so they can click that. They also need to know their score. They can click the little tab or tile, that's what we call it, tile, so they can take that. They also can take the second language placement tests now. There's just a little bit, it takes a little bit of time to turn around for the results of that. But let's say they didn't take it at all and then they showed up to their registration. We would work with them to find them other classes. So if it's not, they're not taking a math class because they haven't taken a CRE, we'll help them look at what other courses are open that would still be working towards the requirements for graduation.
Perfect. Okay, I think what we'll do is open it up for questions. So you can either unmute yourself, raise your hand if you know how to do that function. Lori will be looking too, so we can call on people, or through the chat, other questions that are coming up. Hopefully we're connecting and catching a number of them. So how can we help you? Okay. It looks like Anjabik, is that right?
Yes, so my question was, my son did the IB diploma program and he took Math SL. So I was just wondering, would that qualify him to take Math 30, or does he have to take a placement test?
Denise, you want to take the IB question?
I apologize. I missed the first part of that question as I was trying to respond to another parent.
That's
Do you want to take it, Joanne? I'm so sorry.
So, Angelique, what he needs to do is, your son, I think you said, right? So what he
Yes.
would do with his faculty member or advisor is, one, he can go into our course bulletin. The course bulletin at Santa Clara University is called SCU Course Bulletin. You can type it into the website for the 23-24 year. So it's in essence, it's our course catalog. Also in the course catalog is a location where he can find the IB listings as well as the AP listings and what he needed to do in the IB class to be able to move on to the math class. And his advisor will be able to help him more specifically that way.
Okay. So you said that it's in the SCU course enrollment.
Yeah, it's
or
in
course bulletin.
the,
Sorry.
the course bulletin, Santa Clara University course
Course.
bulletin.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Sure. Let's see, we're going to go to Susanna Vickers. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much. And I have two questions, if I may. First, just to piggyback on the math. My daughter, and I think I saw someone else ask the same question or a similar question in the chat. We didn't have IB or AP classes offered at her high school, but she took advanced calculus and did not get straight A's like the other students, but got pretty close to that. Mm-hmm. Will she be tested out of that, or how should she address math?
So again, what she needs to start with is taking the calculus readiness exam, otherwise known as ALEX. So she needs to take that, and that's going to give her a score. And depending on the score, she will look at what math she should start in. If she gets from 0 to 75, she's going to start in math 9. If she gets 76 and above, she's going to start in math 30 or math 11.
Okay, and is there a score that you get that you don't take any math, or just if it's you said it's 75?
Oh, no, everybody needs to take math. They don't necessarily have to take math in the fall, but what this is this helps us determine the best place for students to start. Yeah. Okay.
And then super quick last question. Do they get assigned an advisor? I'm just still stuck on the registration system that or process that there's an advisor standing by on Zoom.
Yeah.
But I kind of imagine that on her designated date, she would discuss stuff with an advisor and then they'd kind of sign up for classes together. But I guess that's not the way it works.
Well, that is partially true. Denise, do you want to handle that question, or do you want me to take it? Or were you still?
You can go ahead and take it.
Okay.
I'll add my 2 cents.
So two pieces to the answer of that. One, there is an expectation and that a student has done some prep work to get themselves ready. Look at the Camino course, look at the course offerings, think about what their schedule is going to look like, what might be some classes they're interested in. And then you certainly can attend, and I would encourage any student, if they haven't attended Denise's workshop or some time with our peer advisors, to meet with a peer advisor who can then also help guide them about the steps in terms of registering. Once they hop on the registration, some students will get on, and as students are sometimes these days, very savvy and everything goes great and they're in. They may not need to talk to an advisor. Most students will want that Zoom link that's going to be sent, and they'll pop on, talk with the advisor. Here's what I'm thinking. Okay, let's walk you through the steps to register, and they'll stay right with them the entire time until their registration's done.
And is that person their advisor for the next 4 years?
No, that is not necessarily their advisor. It might be somebody from the business school, or it will be probably somebody from the business school, but that won't be their assigned advisor. But it will be somebody who's very familiar with the first level classes that they need to take.
When do they get assigned an advisor? A real advisor, formal advisor?
So last question, and then I'm going to move on. So their advisor is generally assigned towards the middle part of their either first year, they'll have their peer advisor and our undeclared advisors, and they can always make an appointment with somebody like Mike Dana for undeclared advising. Okay, moving on to Paul.
Yes, hi. It sounds like from the chat and some anecdotes that we heard from other students that a lot of the courses are already filled, and our son is his registration is not till next Tuesday. and some people have already done it. So what are the options if the courses that he wants are already filled?
Denise, or a different voice on that, or do you want me to?
I can do it, I guess. So we actually reserve seats for each session. So it's not like, I don't want it to be where, oh, if you didn't register the first week, you don't have access to some of the classes. We wanted to make sure it was equitable and spread across all registrations. So what may seem closed right now, that's why I was telling people that our course offerings, that students should check 24 hours before they register to see what we're offering. If for some reason when they're registering, things, because they're competing against other students, if they cannot find something that's open, Paul, have your student log on to the advisor Zoom. That's what we're there for. And that's why we're kind of in this call center, just standing by waiting to assist your students. So if they're having issues registering for classes, have them jump on, and then we'll work with them to find them an open class.
Thank you. So you're saying that he's not at a disadvantage from the people who registered last week because there are some spaces in every session that were reserved for people next week.
Yes, that's
Thank
correct.
you.
I think the important thing, which I add here, and Professor Dana could add to from an advising standpoint, one of the transitions, and this is for everyone, that from a family member standpoint, you can help your student understand, is at a university, we run classes from 8 o'clock in the morning until sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. So while I don't think it's very much a shift, it's not a huge shift for students to be taking early classes, but sometimes they'll get to college and like, I don't really want to take an early class. Well, there are people up there and they're terrific people teaching at 8 o'clock in the morning. The other piece I find very hard for some students transitioning to college is taking classes after 3 o'clock. Because historically, that's when either high school has ended or they're done and off to whatever activities. Well, classes go into the evening. And what I share with folks, and Professor Dana might be able to comment on who he has teaching some of his business law classes. Sometimes we have often we have active members of either our lawyers working and then coming to teach at night, or faculty members who are working full-time during the day and come teach in the late afternoon and early evening. And honestly, those connections cannot be discounted. They're terrific. And so you need to encourage your student to be open to times and to be open to classes. Every student is not get every single class they want at every single time they want it, but they will have a full schedule, to go to Paul's question. Mike, do you want to add anything on that? Yeah.
Yeah, you made a great point about professionals who work full-time in other roles, and in particular in the class that I teach. So I'm also the course coordinator for the business law class, and this is what I do full-time. But we have professors who teach who are full-time lawyers. One in particular, he's a partner in a major law firm, outstanding background. He's been teaching at Santa Clara for since before I began teaching here. And his 8 a.m. class is one of the hardest to fill because of that. And yet, if a student takes this class, they're getting a great opportunity to take a class with someone who's actually still full-time practicing law, working for one of the top firms. And so that's great advice. Also, I have been a summer advisor. I'm not doing it this summer, but I've done it 3 other years. So I'm one of those advisors that help when the students are registered, the new students are registering for class. And so I'm there, the students show up in my Zoom. We talk for about, I think it's 20 minutes or so, half an hour, and then we register. And it really is a pretty smooth process. And students will sometimes come in thinking that they're not able to get the classes they want. But typically by the end, we get a solid schedule for just about everybody. And if we can't do it, we have resources on the line. Denise is on the line. Others that represent the particular colleges are on the line, and so by the time we're done, for the most part, all students get a really solid schedule.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Mike. Professor Dana, that's very helpful. I'm going to go to Katrina, and then I'm going to take a little break for a moment. Denise, will come to you to see if there's any other questions. Then we'll move forward. Katrina.
Yeah, so if a student decides to declare a second major or a minor, is there a screening process or requirements from the particular department if it's external to the business school?
Let's see, Andre, you want to try that with your sustainability minor, which is external to the business school, as an example?
Yeah, so I'm so sorry. I was responding to another message in
Oh,
the
that's
chat.
okay. You
Do
guys are,
mind-
you look like
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
you're right in touch with it.
Sorry
Grace,
about that. Yeah, do you mind? Oh, okay.
Grace, or
Grace
do
can
you
go
want
ahead.
me to handle that for you?
If I can answer the question, do you mind repeating it?
Sure.
So
Oh.
the question is, sorry, Katrina, the question is quite simply, Andre, if you are looking to do a minor external to the business school, are there requirements, maybe even applications for students to be able to access those minors?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for my personal experience, the sustainability minor does not have any application process. I know some minors do. The retail studies minor, I believe, for example, does have an application process that you have to fill out and you have to get accepted into that minor. But many minors will not have that requirement. You'll just have to, of course, take the classes associated with that minor. And then once you've, and then of course, declare the minor. And then that's pretty much all you have to do in order to complete it.
Wonderful. I think the quick answer around that is most do not. There may be a few that the student runs into. And in general, those applications are to look at the student, what they're trying to do for their goals, and are they able to complete the minor within the time frame that they're adding it. So a first-year student adding a minor is going to have no problem doing that. Someone who's late in their junior year might have a little bit of difficulty. So that's why we want to often look at that in terms of advising. Denise, anything else? And then I'm going to turn to final comments from our panelists before we send people off, and stay for anybody who has individual comments or questions.
Yeah, I just want to say, if you have math questions, the best people to email are the CRE directors at su.edu, and I will put that in there. Just because a lot of you are messaging me very specific scores for AP and CRE, and all this information is online. So you can go ahead, and if you really need like a human person, because sometimes I understand that too, because I need that, you can go ahead and email the CRE directors. And they're pretty responsive. So I'm going to put that in the chat, CRE directors at su.edu. Feel free to email them and they'll be able to help you with more the specifics of math. And I think that's the majority of the questions that I got, was just particularly around math, and where to find the list for AB and IB scores is on the Camino module. There's a whole module on there that's titled like AP and IB transfer credits. Have your student look there. Everything is listed on there. So I'm going to keep referring back to the Camino website. I know if your son or daughter has done it because I can pull the data of how much they've completed it. So please make sure you do that. And then Joanne, I do have a closing remark, but I will save it for later if needed.
Okay, I will. So then we're going to move to closing remarks. Thank you, Denise. That's very helpful. And all of your questions are very common questions. So you should feel both great about that and helpful for us as we continue to provide information to you. I'm going to turn it over to Grace, then Andre, Professor Dana for some parting thoughts or words of wisdom. Last thoughts that you have in terms of encouraging notes for these families and their students over the summer and before they join us. Grace.
I would just say that I know this is a super stressful time, especially since all your students are registering for classes for the first time, but they'll get into the groove of it with registering it for like winter quarter, spring quarter. But just have them keep going on their Camino courses, and there's so many different advising resources for them, and they are going to get a full schedule, and it's all going to be great, and they're going to have a great time at Santa Clara. But I know this is super stressful, but hang in there and I'm sure they'll do great.
Yeah, fantastic. Definitely agree with what Grace said. Just to add on, it is a stressful time, but take a deep breath. Things will be okay. Even if your student doesn't end up getting, some of their first choice classes now, it's very easy to catch up because we're on a quarter system that has more terms. And then Santa Clara has also made it very easy for students to stay on top of their academic progression throughout their 4 years. A lot of students actually end up graduating early because there's so many terms available to complete your requirements. So definitely not a problem at all if this registration period doesn't go so well. The important part is that it's a learning process and that they'll do better next time.
Great, thank you. Professor Dana.
Yeah, so both Grace and Andre, great comments. I thought I'd follow up on something Andre was talking about earlier, and that is the support you can get from your classmates and the other students here. I think about what I like best about teaching here. Campus is beautiful. The weather's amazing. I grew up in Phoenix, and I think in the past week it was above 110 every day in Phoenix. And so for me, it's like heaven here, how great the weather is. But really what I like the most about teaching here are the students. And I like that we have students from all these different diverse backgrounds, their unique talents. They're all incredibly respectful of faculty, and they're also very supportive of each other. And so I think, once you get here, once you start establishing those relationships and the students learn from each other, they learn about strategies for succeeding, and it is very supportive. It's not, sometimes academics can be competitive, but the students really support each other, and so I really encourage you and your children who are attending there to start making those connections with your class.
Wonderful, thank you. Nicely said, Professor Dana. Denise.
My last remark is for your student, because they've done all this prep work or what to register. Workday is a new system for us at Santa Clara. We literally launched it spring quarter. So it does take some getting used to. So I put in the chat a YouTube video that the peer advisors made on how to register for classes, how to search for classes and all that. So I really, really appreciate if you can make sure your student watches it before. And it is on their Camino website under the module Workday. So if they need to access and watch it, they can do that. That's my parting remark. And I will be in the call center as your student is registering. So I am on standby also to assist the advisors too. So a lot of people are here to support your student during this stressful time.
Yeah, and it's going to be great. So it's stressful because it's new, right? And that's what happens with new things. Denise and her team are amazing. Our faculty are amazing. Let me just tell you that we've shared a lot of information with you today, and we have shared some of that with your students, and we will say it over and over and over again, because we know that first year students need a lot of repetitive information. We'll keep them on track and ask them to step up and do some things and take responsibility as they move forward. And that's the exciting part about joining us at Santa Clara and becoming a college student. So we all enjoy our community here. I want to thank our panelists for all their time and effort. Elise, who I think might have stepped off, but Lori for putting this together. Thank you so much for being here. Professor Dana for taking time out of your schedule, and the students as well. While Denise and I are here daily working hard as the other staff is to help support your transition and your students' transition to be here. So with that, again, congratulations. We'll look forward to seeing you at Move In the fall. And we're going to allow all of you who are ready to stop out to log off. And then for those of you who would like to stay, we can answer a few of individual questions if that's good. Otherwise, have a terrific summer to you and your student. We'll see you in the fall. Take care.